Hello and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening everyone. My name is Derajat Ramadhani Pamungkas, and today as your lecturer I will be explaining to you our lesson plan for our class today. And our lesson plan for today's session is making suggestions and giving advice for ESL students. For those who are unfamiliar with the term ESL students, it is it is essentially an English for second language students. So it is a term used to students who are living in the country who use English as a second language. So let's get into the lesson plan, shall we? And for the first one, we have the class details. It is an intermediate level class with 90 minutes for the first session. It is a speaking, listening, vocabulary, and grammar focused skill class, and its topic is making suggestion and giving advice. The class size is about 15 to 20 students, as you are students now around 15 or 20, and the materials used for this lesson plan is whiteboard, projector or an audio player, handouts, printed and dialogue strips. Let's move on to the next, shall we? For the next is the objectives for this class, for this lesson plans. By the end of the lesson, students will be able to first use common expression for giving advice and suggestions. 2. Practice real-life conversation skills in a structured context. And for the last one, it is to improve listening comprehension of native speakers giving advice. So essentially, for our objectives today, it is just to use common expression to give advice and suggestion, but also learn that from real life practice. And it is essential to improve our listening comprehension because we need to listen well for giving advice and also suggestions. Okay, let's move to the next one. Let us examine the few lesson breakdown for this class. The first one is warm up. It is a 10 minutes activities, and the activity is just a problem match. Here are the instructions. The first one is about write some everyday problem on the board, like I'm always tired, or I lost my phone, or I failed my exam, etc., etc. And the next one is students pair up and try to come up with one suggestion, one problem. It is essentially a brief class sharing. The language aim is to activate prior knowledge and prepare for functional language use. So essentially, for our first lesson in this warm up, right, for 10 minutes, it is a problem match activity. You guys or the students will have to write on the board about their everyday problem or some problem that they have faced recently, like I was tired, lost my phone, failed my exam, failed to do this, failed to do that, etc., etc. And students are needs to be paired up, and each problem that has raised from the beginning will be tried to solved together with their pairing. Okay, next is about vocabulary and expressions. It is a 15 minutes activity, and it is to introduce common phrases for making suggestions and giving advice. For example, like you should, if I were you, I'd blah blah blah, why don't you blah blah blah, or maybe you could blah blah blah. The practice here is that students match phrases to a situation in pairs, worksheet or screen. For example, maybe student A having a problem like I failed exam last week, right? With the pairing of student B will use common phrases for making suggestions, like you should study more, for example, or if I were you, I'd study more, for example, like that. Okay, let's move on to the next one, and it is the third activity. It is listening practice for 20 minutes. The activity is to watch or listen to a short dialogue or video around 2 or 3 minutes of two friends giving advice. So let's, for example, take a YouTube video from YouTube around two friends that are having problems to each of them, and the goal of their conversation, it is to make suggestion, and it is to give advice for the person who are in trouble with. And after watching the video, there are also a few follow-up activity, like the first listening, general question like what is the problem. Like if you were to look at the video of a college students who are having problem with their exams, for example, and the problem from their conversation is that they didn't study enough, for example. The second is about second listening. It is where students answer detailed comprehension questions, like if the problem from the video was like they have a problem for their failed exam, right? And the question is that what is the solution? And the solution is basically just like maybe they should study more, etc., etc. For the next one, we have a follow-up question. It is basically students identify what expressions were used to give advice. So from the videos, students must be able to know or identify what kind of expression were used to give advice. It is like, was it like, I think you should, if I were you, I'd blah blah blah, etc., etc. The tip here is that use a YouTube clip or audio segment with a clear dialogues. Let's move on to the next one, shall we? It is the fourth activity, and it is a controlled dialogue practice for 15 minutes. It is an activity where students are given situation cards like my dog ran away or I'm nervous for my interview. In pairs, students take turns giving each other advice for 2 or 3 different expressions from earlier. There is an optional thing that also needs to be considered. It is to use dialogue strips for substitution practice. So if any of you that are unaware of dialogue strips, you can also use like dialogue strips for substitution practice. So essentially, each pair will given a imaginary problem for them to be solved and give advice for. Okay, let's move to the next activity, which is the communicative activity. It is basically a role play for 20 minutes. The task here is that each pair gets a real life scenario, like your friend wants to quit college or your friend wants to lose weight fast. And students role play a 2-minute conversation using at least 3 advice expressions. After practice, some pairs perform for the class. So essentially, each pair gets a real life scenario, but also made up. For example, like your friends want to lose weight fast. So for example, student A gets your friends want to lose weight fast, right? Student A wants to lose weight fast. Student B, as the pair, will have 3 advice expressions for student A, like maybe you should do cardio, or if I were you, I'd eat less food, or maybe etc., 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 like that. Let's move on to the last activities. It is a wrap up and reflection for 10 minutes. It is an activity where students ask where I ask students about which expression do you like the best, how confident are you in giving advice in English, and for the homework, you guys will have a writing session with a short paragraph giving advice to a friend with a problem of their choice. So it is essentially an activity where you guys tell me which expression do you like the best, or how confident are you in giving advice to other people outside of this class. And for your homework, you will have a short paragraph giving advice to a friend with a problem outside of this class. Here are the few assessments that will be assigned to this class. The first one is about informal assessment through observation during pair work and role plays. It is so I must I will assess you guys based on how well you do in pair work and role plays. I also have the listening comprehension that check via worksheet or questions for your assessment. And for the last one, for optionalist, it is to collect homework for feedback on written advice. Of course, even despite of this being optional, I will still give you guys a like a feedback for every homework that you do. I think that's all that you guys need to know about our lesson plan. And thank you very much everyone for listening. I hope that our class can get along together, and I hope you can stay for the last for the class. Thank you very much everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.